Oh, yeah.
Do you think who's on there after? Are you ready to?
Yeah, and you can, because we record it in gallery view. That's why they end up being, I'll say, promoted. Because it should, if you get the non-gallery view, just a speaker, it only ends up to like 50 megabytes, 100 megabytes. Gallery view, 750 megabytes for sure.
I don't think I can. So probably just write everybody down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get it. I think we're ready, whenever you want to get going.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Everybody out there on the internet can hear me? Okay, good. All right, we're gonna get started here. Couple of ground rules first. Number one, this is an informational meeting. We're not doing any voting tonight. All voting will be done Australian ballot. You can either mail it in, come in the day of town meeting and drop your ballot off. Anything postmarked after whatever date will be, what, March, whatever date that is, will be thrown in the garbage, right?
Deb,
What's that date?
Ballots are allowed to be brought back up until 7 o'clock, March 1st.
Okay, so you got,
Anything received after will be defective.
okay, so you got till 7 PM, March 1st to get your ballot in. Next thing is, we're gonna be civil and nice to each other tonight. One person speaking at a time. Do not interrupt the person that's speaking. Let them finish what they want to say, and then the next person can have their say after that. If we have any problems with that, then we'll just ask the offending person to leave. Okay, we're gonna start with the school district business. Article 1 is to elect a moderator for the ensuing year, currently held by Matt Maxwell. I'm not on the ballot. You can write me in, but it doesn't really matter. I end up doing it anyway, so. Next article, Article 2, is to elect a school treasurer for a one-year term, currently held by Deb Tangway. She is the only person on the ballot. Deb, would you like to say anything on your behalf?
All set.
Okay, thank you. Article 3, to elect a school director for a 2-year term. This position is currently held by Kathleen Ahern, and also on the ballot with Kathleen is Robert Walls Thuma. Kathleen or Robert, are you out there? Would you like to say anything?
I would. My name is Kathleen Ahern. I've served on the school board for 4 years, and I'm looking for another 2-year term. I think the strength of the Coventry School Board is our diversity, in that we have members with children in the school, and I kind of represent a resident who does not have a child in the school, but whose student has benefited from school choice. So I just bring a different perspective, and I would like to continue the work I've been doing on the board as a whole, and more specifically, the work that I'm working on in the library. It's an area that's of interest to me, and we're just getting started, and I want to keep that going. That's why I'm running again. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Robert, are you out there somewhere? Okay, maybe we'll catch him on Saturday or Monday. Article 4 on school district business would be to elect a school director for a 3-year term. That spot is currently held by myself, Matt Maxwell. I am not seeking re-election. Currently on the ballot is Praneet Menon. Praneet, would you like to say something?
Yeah, do you want to step up there, Ned, or?
Why don't you step up
Something
to-
closer to that.
yeah,
Right towards the speaker.
yeah, move it this way.
Should have given you.
Perfect, right there.
Hey, folks. All right, I guess you guys can see me up there. My name is Praneet Menon. For those of you who don't know me, I've moved to Coventry last year in 2021, and since then I've been pretty much staying involved in the town as much as I can. I helped out setting up with the fall festival. I volunteered for the position for the planning commission when we didn't have enough folks. I've been showing up for meetings pretty much every night just to kind of try and stay involved. My experience has been the last 15 years. I've been working in the defense industry for the Army, Navy, a little bit for the Air Force and private industries, mainly doing work on helicopters and avionics. If you all know the Black Hawk helicopters, a lot of the engineering work on it has my stamp on it somewhere. Other than that, I ran a software development company for about 5 years. I'm also a flight instructor, although I haven't instructed because of other employment, I guess, obligations in the past. Other than that, okay, so for the school board, let me just kind of bring about what I'm thinking. We are a community where folks are gonna come to live. We're not getting folks to come here and work. We're not gonna be starting big businesses unless we make some changes into our town's development into the future. But the way I see it now, our main focus should be the school, because when people come here to live and come in with kids, they want to know that we have a decent school system. And we have, Kathleen and Amanda and Jamie who've done wonderful work all so far. What I want to do is step in and start helping out in those aspects as well. There's a beautiful building extension project that's going on. And my experience in running large projects, dealing with financials, dealing with contracts and all those things, I think will come in very, very handy in kind of managing some of these things. Additionally, I am a person who got my master's degree. My wife is a pediatrician. My daughter, we focus on academics quite a bit as well. And so from that standpoint, I have heard some, talks about literacy in our schools, and kind of want to help out with kind of making that literacy a little better, kind of, hitting the goals and meeting standards for the state, or even exceeding it as much as possible. And for that, we need enrichment programs. And as part of, I'm also on the Coventry Town Foundation. So between just kind of seeing the integration between all of these different organizations, I feel like I can bring in a perspective and a work ethic and dedication that can seamlessly kind of meld in and help the school out to help our kids in the future. And that's really what my goal is. I have a 5-year-old in the school here, and I'm not looking at things for what are we going to do for the next 2 to 3 years, or even the next year. My goal is what are we going to do for those kids who are now going to grow up and become adults in our community. So thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Kathleen or Praneet before we move on to some other articles? Hearing none. Article 5, shall the voters of the school district approve the school board to expend $3,881,536, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. It is estimated that this proposed budget, if approved, will result in education spending of $18,513 per equalized pupil. This projected spending per equalized pupil is 16.33% higher than spending in the current year. Now, if anybody would like an explanation of how this number was reached or why it is such a large increase over last year, we've got some school board members here. I think they would be happy to answer those questions. We also have the principal of Coventry School on with us that can answer some questions. Anybody has any?
Mo Jacobs, man. Yeah, I'd like to know why it is so much higher.
The majority, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and on top of that is, are we getting the bang for the buck? And then we're looking at a unpredictable economics in the next 4 years anyway, 3 years. And why is school budget reflecting that on top of when they're expanding, want to expand to build on? All of that kind of fits in a terrible economic picture that most people in this country is facing.
Mhm.
I'd like to see the justification, but the first question is, how come it went up 16% on unequalized?
Sure. Do you,
I know we got an explanation of what unequalized means. I don't know if anybody understands it. Okay.
Sure. One of the biggest reasons for the overall increase in the budget, what's kind of misunderstood with this budget is this is the amount of money that we're going to spend, but it's not the amount of money that the taxpayers are paying. We had a huge influx of what's called ESSER funds from the state and feds, so we're getting a lot more money. If you look at a budget, there's spend and revenue. So what the townspeople are paying is not 16% more than last year. That's just the amount of money that we have that we're going to spend. Most of that money is paid for from outside. Now, the biggest increase in the taxpayers portion of it is because of the CLA, which is the common level of appraisal for your properties. That's set by the state. So they look at towns, some towns can't afford their whole school budget. We're one of them. The state pays about 80% of our school budget. Some schools or some towns have much more tax revenue. They help pay for the others. Because of the CLA increase that the state sets, we are having to spend a little bit more. It's about what, 2%? 2% more this year, which is going to be on the taxpayer. If that makes sense.
Actually, can I interrupt for just 1 second? When you're off camera and you start to speak, before you speak, identify yourself.
Okay. Sure.
clearly. so
Jamie
people
Stanger,
have-
so everybody knows.
Mo, was that?
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, well, it reminds me of high school. If I heard the answer, I don't know if I'm one of so.
So none of the increased spending for the school is, the only increase that the town is paying for are due to increased wages for the teachers, which is a union, which we can't control. And the other one was
High school tuition.
high school tuition. We have a lot of high school age kids in town this year. Those are the only two things that have increased the tax burden on the residents. The rest of that 16% increase is being spent with other people's money, if that makes it more simple.
Well, yeah, it does, and I'm glad of that, because I'm on fixed income, I'm on social security and stuff, and I'm gonna have to let my truck go back if I can't afford to keep it no more, but that's beside the point. No, I understand the picture, but is that true? Shouldn't we be saving this? Do we need to? It has to be reflected in the figures?
That's the way the state requires us to share the budget with the town.
Yeah, and they're in good
So
shape.
it would be, I think, a lot more transparent if we could show this is where the money's coming from. And we did send out a mailer that has a graph that Todd helped create that shows you that the majority of all of that budget, that 3.8-ish million, is not coming from the taxpayers.
And what is there enrollment the same?
Enrollment's approximately the
And
same.
what's the prediction on enrollment? Is that climbing or?
We expect it to continue to climb, yes.
Todd, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, the equalized pupil is up almost entirely due to just two things. We have a slight drop in enrollment this year. We're just down a few kids from last year, but that decreases it was frozen for last year. And so, you know, from our high 2 years ago of 150 to now down to 130, we've gone down a chunk there. That decreases the revenue, and then with our increased number of high schoolers, that increases our expenditure, not at the school, not at the K-8, not right there at the village school, but as a school district, it increases our expenditures. So that those two factors alone shot up the equalized pupil rate. And then, yeah, everything Jamie said, our revenues, we got a huge chunk we're getting for 3 years from the federal government. We're spending it directly to help kids on our literacy motion, like Preneet talked about. But that's all temporary. And we know that, and that's our plan. None of that is supposed to carry over. So at the end of those grants from the federal government, that money's done, and then we'll see a substantial decrease in the budget from that revenue being gone. And then the taxes shooting up, like Jamie said, it's a really complicated budget year because we have an increase in what looks like spending and an increase in the taxes, but they're not related. Only 2 cents of the 5% of the tax increase is from the school, and the other 95% is from this formula from the state. So it's a really complicated year in terms of the school budget, but the school board has worked really hard to make sure that it is a lean and responsible budget, I feel.
Okay, any other questions on Article 5? Okay, thank you, Mo. Thank you, Jamie. Todd? Article 6, shall the voters of the school district approve the school board to borrow up to $3.2 million over the period of 30 years for the proposed building addition at Coventry Village School? Any questions, or would anyone like a more in-depth explanation of Article 6? Yep.
Skip Gosselin. I was at the school board meeting, the informational meeting they had. And that figure was related to us in about $90,000 that the town would be liable for. The remaining coming from grants or whatever, I'm not sure. How come in here we're asking for the voters to approve 3.2+ million?
Jamie?
Sure. The 3.2 million plus interest is going to be the total cost of the school addition. The annual payment on that loan will be put into the school budget. So that'll be in addition to the yearly expense of the school, the budget that we were just talking about. currently, and in the past many, many years, and most likely for the future, unless we see a huge population explosion, the state pays approximately 80% of the town school budget. So by adding those expenses to the budget each year, 80% of that cost will be paid for by the state. So over the course of the 30 years, the $3.2 million that we're gonna borrow, approximately 600,000 of it will be paid by the residents of Coventry, and the remaining will be paid by the state.
So why are we actually asking for 3.2?
Because we have to be the ones to borrow it, the school, the town basically has to borrow that money. And then each year, as our payments are put into the budget, the state pays that portion of the budget, but it's still our loan.
And the contractors are still willing to go with the figures you're talking about? There's not going to be an increase?
No, we have a 20% of that 3.2 million is added to what they expect the cost to be in case there are overruns or increases in pricing. But it hasn't gone out to bid yet, so we don't have the final numbers, but the architects are pretty confident that they've been looking at current pricing of concrete and everything else. So they priced out using today's current pricing. So it actually could come in quite a bit less, but they're pretty confident that that number is, generally they put 10 to 15% extra on a project like this for instant, or, things that come up that we don't know about. We decided to add 20% just to be sure that we didn't have any overruns.
So along with that same question, there was also a wood chip facility to be possibly added to for the heating system. Is this 3.2 including any of that system?
Yes, it does. It includes the full heating system for the school, which will be not a wood chip boiler, but a wood pellet boiler, which will be outside. The plan on the design is next to the shed. When you pull into the school, there's a shed on the right. It will be right in that general area. So hot water and the heat for the school will be done using that. We'll also be able to get grants from the state and possibly the federal government because it's a renewable resource. So there's a lot of grant money out there, so that could help us with that as well.
Can I add two things there?
Hold on, Todd. Mo's got a question first.
You got it.
Okay, it's good. I'm just like, wasn't this school built with a built-in so it could build up and expand? Was that part considered in this?
Sure, it was in the initial plans, there was plans to be able to move up to the second floor. We looked at that first and foremost, and the expense for doing that was much, much higher than adding a second wing,
It was actually higher?
quite a bit higher.
With the
Substantially.
same amount of additional footage or whatever?
Well, you look at the attic up there, and it's just the same size as the school, obviously. But the eaves from the roof come down, so we have to build out.
Yeah, I hope, as long as it's not a flat roof.
But when we started looking at the final construction plans for the school, they didn't quite build it the way that it was, I don't want to use the word sold, but there were cost overruns, so they had to kind of pull back. So some of the stuff that they planned on doing upstairs
So
didn't happen.
what you're saying is that you looked at the original predictions that adding on was gonna go up or around, and it doesn't fit in, okay?
Correct.
Now, on the heating thing, where are we with the solar? Why are we looking at expensive building a wood chip? Where that's a renewable resource, but it takes a long time to get the renewable to be the actual heat source. What happened with the solar arrays that we had that we tried to include the school with?
Well, I think the solar would provide electricity to the school, but it would not provide heat or hot water.
It certainly would be part of the expense situation, lessen all that with the lights and all of that, and give you more money to spend for the system. I just want to know if that stuff was investigated or checked through at all during these planning sessions.
We didn't look at anything.
And why I ask you, because we were on the planning commission for a long time, and that was part of the original, if I could get a amen from Philip. We planned on that. But then we were told that they couldn't include the school because it was a separate thing from the town and all of that stuff. So I'm wondering why that wasn't looked into as at least a reduction of cost for this new proposal. Instead of wood pellets.
Well, like I said, the wood pellets only provide heat and hot water.
Yeah.
They don't provide
So
electricity.
it's a different type of system.
Two totally different systems.
By reducing the electrical cost for a school and all that stuff, will give you more money for this.
Right, yeah, no, and I agree with you. I think that's a great idea to have solar power the school, but that isn't part of the architectural design or need for the school. That's kind of a separate subject, but I would love to.
Well,
Have that
I really think it's something that should be looked into because just because you've got the money to do it, doesn't mean you need to spend it all. There's gonna be a rainy day somewhere.
For sure.
Right? And I would think that it would be at least worthwhile for us in the town, us as taxpayers or as residents and the town as a entity to look into reducing costs instead of just spending them. Because I do believe in the next 4 years, it's gonna be, and I'm looking on my years of experience, but it's gonna be hard on a lot of people, particularly Coventry residents and small town residents on fixed incomes and all that stuff. So it all trickles down. And I just hope you guys did your due diligence. There's not been a lot of information come out in this in the last just 2 months that I've seen. So hence the question.
No problem. Yeah, we did send out a mailer with all the information that we thought was pertinent. We do have a lot of information on the website. And to be honest, we've had 3 specific informational meetings scheduled just for the school, and they have been very, very lightly attended.
As a bone criticism, not everybody does Zooms,
Right,
okay?
yeah.
It's the hardest thing in the world to get to a meeting when you don't know if you can attend, or you gotta get on Zoom and do it. And what we're looking at here, I wanna tell you, and I'm not the only one, I guess I'm the only one who'll stand up and say it, but a lot of us have a little bit of a handicap in hearing. Now, I don't know what the school principal said, and answer to the equalizer, I had no idea what he said. So my point being is that information needs to be considered how it's gonna reach most or a good portion of the residents. And Zooms, I had to resign off the NECA board because I couldn't do Zoom meetings, I couldn't hear people. And I'm not gonna do that with my town, I wanna come in person, which affords a lot more.
Yeah. Well, all of the meetings that we are having and scheduled are in-person meetings with the option to join in Zoom if you don't want to come in
I do
person.
appreciate it, thank you.
Yeah, and we do have another one scheduled for Monday evening.
Don't tell anybody, I can't hear it.
Hold on a minute, Todd's next. Go ahead, Todd.
Oh, that's right. I was just gonna jump back on what Jamie was saying, but I'm happy to re-explain anything if it's not making sense. Another way to re-say what Jamie said, it was for every 20 cents we put into the state education fund, we get $1 back as a town. And that's a great rate of return. So that applies to, not only just our regular school budget, but to this addition. So yeah, the total, we need a bond vote for this loan of $3.2 million to pay off the construction workers and the materials and all that. But as we pay off the loan, the state is paying for the vast majority of it, not Coventry taxpayers, out of the state education fund, which of course we contribute to, but not at the rate that we get stuff back. And then the other piece was again, on what Jamie said, the 20%, we upped that a little bit because of the volatility in materials and the workers market right now, but also because we delayed doing this. We had wanted to do this last year, and when we couldn't do any in-person meetings, we didn't feel good about that. So the school board decided, let's wait a year. And so we're looking at it now when we could, do these information meetings in person, but that means we're waiting till next spring to start, just with the way this cycle works. And so with such a lead time on constructions and bids and everything, we wanted to build in a little more wiggle room into that figure. Jamie, that sum it up all right?
Correct, very well.
I didn't get the last part about the building materials and stuff and putting it out till next spring.
We had planned on having this bond vote a year ago.
Yeah.
And due to COVID and the fact that people couldn't come together, the board didn't feel comfortable having a vote without being able to get people in. So we delayed it a year. So that means that the construction, if this passes, we plan to break ground next spring. So
And you're gonna be adding a lot of money to the increase in material and everything.
that's why, and what Todd mentioned was that was also part of the reason we put a 20% contingency plan on top, because we don't know where we're gonna be in a year, so that contingency money is a lot more than most projects have, so we wanted to make sure,
Does that mean what you said, it could be less?
it very well could be.
Amanda?
Yes, Amanda Jensen. So we have been having this conversation for quite a while now. And I'd like to hear you say that you had, this is essentially the first time you've been hearing about it. And it would be important for us to know, other than in person, if there's a different way or a method for us to notify folks. Because clearly the way that we're doing it, which is multiple different platforms of trying to get, reach the townspeople, what could we be doing better? What would reach you better?
Yeah, well, I don't know that I got the answer for it, but I do know that you're missing a big audience that does participate. Well, town meetings, right? The word gets out and these people spread the word, or they hear about it, they talk about it before. And what we're hearing, and I'm out every day. I mean, I do papers and doctor's visits and things like that. But I don't hear about the school. I don't hear about even the select board meetings and stuff. Ned, I'm still on the email list and stuff like that, but I don't get on that all the time. And it's just, all I'm saying is that there is an audience that I would believe that they're supporters,
Sure.
but they're looking for the information and in a context that they can understand. And I tell you, it doesn't come from Zoom, and it doesn't come from papers, and it doesn't come from releases. It comes from interaction. And I've seen it, I've done it, I've been involved in it for a couple of years. And it needs to be there somehow, some way to convey that to the people that it's not getting to, or not all the information is getting to. And it's something that should be considered. And it might be a hard thing to do.
I think it's something that we speak about often at our school board meetings. How do we reach more people? How are we not, what are we doing wrong? Where are we
Well, how
falling
come more
short?
people don't come to the meetings? I understand that too,
Yeah.
but that's.
And we got this nice big sign right up front of the
Yeah.
school. It's got all
Yeah,
of the
but
dates
you
of
can't
our
read from the
meetings.
road when you're coming by, unless you stop and give a rear end.
Yeah.
We brought that up too, did we? But listen, I understand that the work that's gone into this, and I understand the people that are doing it, and I understand their intentions. So I think it needs to be valued. And the more people that get the information, the correct information.
Yes, I think that's the key.
Okay?
And if you have any suggestions and want to talk afterwards about what we could do better, I would love to hear that.
I'm famous for bringing up problems with no solution.
Something.
But I thank you, Jamie. and Still can't hear.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments concerning school business?
Kathleen Ahern.
Kathleen?
Yes, Mo,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if you can hear me, and I'm sorry, earlier I was speaking very quickly. I too am a little bit challenged. So thank you for saying that and just putting it out there. But I wanted to address two things that you and I think Skip brought up. Scott and Partners has looked at what we're presenting now is version, and maybe Jamie, you can say it's version 2, 3, or 4. Originally, Alan Feltmarch was one of the first people to come in and greet Todd, welcome him as the new principal. And he talked about if the school needs to expand, because he was on that original school board 25 years ago, that it could go up. So when the various plans were presented, or the various options were presented, and again, I can't remember what we had an up version, we had an out version. This is the up and out version. And again, looking at cost effectiveness, Scott and Partners explained to me that it would cost more to make the school structurally structurally, yes, there might have been a space in the attic in theory, but structurally so much would need to be done that's why the up version would cost more than the current version. And then the second point about the solar panels, I did talk to Scott and Partners about that also. It's not under their scope, but when we get to that point in power for the school, electricity, it very much can be brought up, because I know that a few years ago as part of the planning commission, you came to school board meetings. We are very aware that that's a possibility. And I just want to say, we'll keep looking at it at the right time. Don't think that it's not on the table. It is. So I thank you for your input and your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else relating to the school? Okay, we'll move on to town business. Article 7, elect a town moderator for the ensuing year, currently held by Matt Maxwell. Nobody's on the ballot. Do what you will. Article 8, to elect the following officers required by law. Letter A is a select person, 3-year term, currently held by David Gallup. On the ballot for this position, we have David Gallup, Amanda Jensen, Praneet Menon, and Martha Sylvester. We'll start with David, if he's got anything he wants to say on his behalf.
He's not there.
Okay, Amanda Jensen.
Oh. Hello, all. Amanda Jensen. I did not prepare a speech, and I am not a public speaker. I have been on the school board for, I think, 8 years. I'm going in my 8th year now. Being on the select board has been something that I've been tossing around in my mind now for several years. I feel like this year is the right year for me to throw my hat in the ring. I would love to be a part of this table, bring my own perspective, most importantly, bring the perspective of the town voters. This town means everything to me, what it stands for, our direction forward is everything that I also value in this amazing town that we live in. Because I didn't prepare anything and I'm not a very eloquent speaker, I think that's pretty much all you're going to get out of me, but I'm happy to have side conversations where I do speak a lot better. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Any questions for Amanda?
Amanda, would you stay on the school board? I would more than likely finish my question on the school board, and then after that I would not run again.
Tammy Jacobs, I just asked her if she would still be interested in being on the school board in addition to being a select person.
Yes, and my answer was I would likely finish out the year that I have remaining.
Thank you. Praneet?
All right. So we'll leave the introductions behind since we've already went through that, and I'll just talk a little bit about what I was thinking from the select board standpoint. One of the first things that I kind of picked up on after kind of being involved in things was the unfortunate history that we had from a financial standpoint of the last few years. Given that, I have not, numbers are kind of in disarray, and our treasurer has been doing a wonderful job trying to get those things back in line. We are putting away a lot. We're trying to put away a bunch of money because of the tipping fees we're getting from Casella. And we seem to have this idea that we're going to keep municipal taxes at zero forever. And that is something that just doesn't exist in reality. Forever is not something that we can look forward to. So what I would like to do is have a more reserved approach for this, which is I would like to look into what we can do what is that tipping point? And this has been talked about before. What's the tipping point that we need to reach where we can just pull a certain percentage out of our investments and keep municipal taxes at a basically none? Or if there is even that kind of a point. I think if we answer that question, then we can start getting into what can we do with the rest of the money? What additional town projects can we partake in? Do we need to put in? I mean, we're already doing infrastructure work right now. The 2018 municipal plan that you got, the planning commission put together back then, I went through that thing with a fine tooth comb, and there's a lot of good ideas in there And one of the things that kind of irked me from that, the meeting where the whole thing was discussed, was that no responsible members really put for those goals. Sorry, I didn't want to block Scott. No responsible members have put for that goal, and I think it was taken out with the understanding that it would actually encourage more participation. And I don't think that's the case either. I think that having folks who are responsible for getting certain things done is the way to move forward. And in my mind, what I want to do is first figure out what we can do with Casella's tipping fees and the whole municipal tax situation. Once we figure out how much we need to get to that value, then we can figure out how much extra we have with which we can put, start executing the plan that you guys put together and also developing it on top of that. Another thing that I mentioned with the school board thing was we're becoming a bedroom community, something that you guys had put out in there in the planning commission as well. What are we doing for that? There's some efforts in the way right now to get high-speed internet access, which I think is going to be a must if we're going to be living in, well, in the 2000s. I guess we're in the 21st century now. Meetings like Zoom might become more of a mainstay than it is today. And so what are we doing, to reach our townspeople? If this is what's going to be the case, how are we helping our town reach that infrastructure? Let's see. I think I've pretty much covered all of the things on there. And one other thing that just kind of came to my mind, it's a small town. I haven't lived much in small towns, mostly in big cities and urban areas. The police force in our town is a little lacking in my mind. And I'm not sure, I've looked into the numbers with the select board. I've kind of sat down and kind of looked at it. We get 3 hours a week from them for a town of 1,100 people. It may work out, it may not work out. I've heard of shootings in our area that's going on right now, and I have a 5-year-old, and I gotta say, I don't know, and things are happening near the school. These are things that I don't quite like. And my point is, I think we have the funds to be able to kind of create a more modern and more safe environment, especially if things are going to progress in that direction. And I kind of that's where I want to use my time and dedication to figure out what I want to select for. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody have a question or a comment for Praneet? Okay, next up would be Martha Sylvester for the select person position. Martha?
I don't believe that's Martha's phone number there.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll hear from her on Saturday then. Article 8, letter B would be town clerk for a 3-year term currently held by Deb Tangway. She is also the only person currently on the ballot. Deb, anything you want to say for the town clerk position?
I've been the clerk since 2017. I have absolutely enjoyed working for the town and also working for the town people, trying to bring efficiency, integrity, teamwork, and ethics back to the office, trying to get things done, bring the office to the 21st century, getting land records online, getting maps online, getting the information out to the researchers so that they're able to access it in a little bit more of a speedier manner. Of course, we're a small town, so we have limited hours for some of us elected officials. So definitely the more information that we're able to get out there for people, the better. During the time frame, I have also expanded my knowledge in regards to the duties surrounding the municipalities, and as far as the clerk itself, this fall I will be receiving my Vermont certification as town clerk, which I'm very excited about. And actually next year I'm possibly going to be looking at receiving my national certification as well. So that's some stuff that I can just at least offer to the town. I have a constant yearning to want to learn, and definitely take that and bring it back to the town and being able to see what I can do for the town and for the townspeople.
Thanks, Deb. Does anybody have any questions for Deb on her candidacy for town clerk? Okay.
I got one.
Yeah, Mo.
I just thought of it.
Go ahead.
Is it up to the select board to expand her hours so that they're not so inconvenient for a lot of people? I don't mean a lot of hours. I'm just saying, is it a possibility for a couple days a week, or one day, one night, or something like that? Is it that way, Deb? Did you hear me?
I actually work Mondays and Thursdays. I'm generally at the office from 7 a.m. until 3 p.m. To be honest with you, being a small town, justification for residence wise and cost wise and efficiency wise, 16 hours is actually a very adequate. I mean, as far as when you're looking at it job performance wise, that is adequate hours in order to get whatever needs to be done. I mean, that's just my input as far as that goes.
Did you want the answer of who can, did you want the answer of who sets the hours? Yes, the board or Deb? Just the town clerk that sets the hours, right? Not the.
Yeah.
The other thing that I want was, lost my train of thought. Phil, you did it to me again.
Sorry.
She answered my question, and then you bucked it up, but there are still a number of people that can't get here during the day in the town, and that's why I was wondering if there was a situation where she was there beyond. I think a good portion of the people still working. The only time I ever got here when I come to a meeting, but is there, do we know what the dynamics are? How many people are, you can't get to the town clerk for questions or whatever, or how's it working? Yes, ma'am.
Oh, no, you continue.
Yeah, it used to be, I remember the lawyers were in here in a parade during the day, looking up records and stuff like that. Has that changed? And or have you got them graciously trained to the hours that you are there then?
One thing that has drastically helped out with that situation, Mo, is having the land records online. There are a lot of researchers, attorneys, realtors, even Coventry residents who actually go to that as their initial point of contact. They're able to go back for the last 40 years. A typical research, they only have to go back and do 40 years. If it's a funky piece of property, you know, like a big farm that had 500 acres and was subdivided and subdivided again and subdivided again, then they have to come into the office to really dig down deep and go further than the past 40 years. Many go right to the land records online. They pull off the information that they need, and then they start from there. If they need to come into the office, currently right now, because it's a small office, because we're still trying to come out from COVID, we are still restricting one researcher to be in my office at the time. So they are calling, making an appointment, coming in for their allotted times. I do have my assistant clerk, which is David Barlow. He is here 2 days a week, generally Monday and Friday afternoons. So if there's a particular person who is like, hey, I need to come in, but I need to come in on this day, usually I'll say, hey, David, somebody needs to come in. Do you mind carrying out that task? Because I will not be there that day. And usually that's how we do it. David has been a wonderful assistant clerk. He's been very supportive to sort of pick up on some of the later nights if something needs to happen. But to be quite honest with you, most of the researchers, they come in during the day. They are just happy to be able to come back in during the day. And as far as from residents, I don't get feedback as far as us not being reachable or obtainable to them. Sometimes someone may come in when I'm not there. Ned is then in the office. He'll just request for them to come back. I do a lot of communication via email. There's a lot of forms that I can just go ahead and send to people via that way. Of course, with elections, being able to register to vote, you can actually go online to Vermont Secretary of State. I think it's the change in times, and just a lot of things are being done remotely and online, which has taken away from that need of having to come to the office. And I understand, I know there's still some of the old school. I have some attorneys who will be like, they'll go to my land records portal, But then they're like, you know what? I'm still gonna come in and see you. I wanna come in and see you. I still wanna come in and touch the land records. And that's perfectly fine. I mean, we are here to meet, you know, both sides of the whole picture. As far as my hours goes, because this is just a 16-hour week position for me, I do have my self-employment businesses on the side, which I then have rearranged to take up as far as some of the other time frame for when I'm not here, like when I leave at 3 o'clock or on the other 3 days. So that's, you know, that is what has worked well for me. Prior to before, I did just have like 3 mornings during the week, but then I found it challenging to try to be gone by here to be at, you know, my clients that I need to be at that day in a timely fashion. So changing it to 2 full days here, my clients the other 3 days, I have some I do when I leave here. Just seems the best scenario, and it honestly has just seemed it has worked for everyone, in my opinion, for what I've been hearing.
Okay, thanks, Mo. Thanks, Deb. Okay, Article 8, letter C, Town Treasurer, 3-year term, currently held by David Barlow, who is also the only name that appears on the ballot. David?
Thank you. I'll be very brief. I appreciate your support. 3 years I've been in the job now, and it's been an interesting time. It continues to be interesting. You'll see an article or two coming up. We'll have to deal with cleaning up. But other than that, I will leave it open to the floor for questions. Over.
Does anybody have any questions for David? Yeah, Skip.
Skip Gosling again. My brother happens to be a select member of the town of Newport, and they run a yearly audit on their treasurer. Do we do that? Or are we looking at more trouble?
So we hire an outside auditor, currently a firm that's down in Berry. And we meaning the town, finances and other aspects of town government have been audited every year since 2017, I believe. So we have all those reports, and I can certainly send them to you or get you copies.
No, I was just interested if we were doing it.
We are. A lot of towns will do it internally. They'll elect or appoint auditors, but we do not. And given the history of the town, that's a good thing at the moment. We hire an outside firm to do it.
Thank you, David. Article 8, letter D, Collector of Delinquent Taxes, 1-year term, currently held by Kate Fletcher. We have 2 people on the ballot for this, Kate Fletcher and Carrie Keement. Kate, would you like to start?
Sure. So I'm Kate Fletcher, and I am running for this position that I've held since 2017. In the past 5 years since I've been delinquent tax collector, when I first started, there were no receipts and no records in our town accounting software called NEMRIC. I spent a good 12 months going through every single check deposited into the town bank account at Community National Bank to make sure that accounts were credited properly and residents were given the credit for what they deserved paying in their property taxes, and conversely, finding out what taxes had not been paid over that time period. So it's a question of not just the monies owed to the town, we're talking about penalties and interest. It's a very delicate balance there because I have lived in this community almost 30 years to this exact day. These are my neighbors, these are my friends, these are residents. So one of the things I've prided myself on here is working with these people in a way that's a very personal basis and making sure that I understood what happened, why it happened, and working towards a written signed tax agreement, which was never done before in this town. When I took over in 2017, the bank records went back to 2009. Since that time, I've collected hundreds of thousands of dollars owed to the town of Coventry. If you look in the town report, I think my numbers stand for themselves. And I have to look here just quickly because 2017, I did not list in the town report, but in 2018, monies owed to the town of Coventry were about $120,000. In 2019, I dropped that to about $71,000. 2020 down to $64,000. 2021, as it stands now, we're below $30,000. So I do believe that my record stands for itself. I enjoy my job. I think I brought integrity and honesty to this position. I'm a team player. I ask for your continued support on town meeting day. And I wish everyone a safe and healthy 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Does anybody have any questions for Kate before she sits back down? You can sit back down. Okay, not seeing any. Carrie, are you out there somewhere? Oh, right here. Perfect.
Hi, everybody. So Carrie Keenan, I'm not a public speaker anyway either, so it's a good thing this job doesn't require it. Like one-on-one, I'm fine. I've lived in the town my whole life, grew up on the airport road. Moved to Route 14, not long after high school. Raised, my husband and I have 2 daughters that they as well, with their families live in Coventry. So I've got deep roots. Their kids go to the school. I was on like the parents club, Girl Scouts, that stuff growing up, but then my kids grew up and I really wasn't involved anymore. And I've been thinking about it for a long time that I want to get more involved in the town. I was on the Coventry Fall Festival committee, or I am. We're going to start working on the new year, this year's. I've recently appointed to John Miller as Justice of the Peace seat. And I just think, like I said, I have deep roots and I've know a lot of people, and I have 14 years plus of billing and accounts receivable at Freedom Physical Therapy. It's something that I do, and I know it's not a well-liked position, but I'm sure when they come knocking on your door or calling, but I think I could bring a lot to the position as well.
Thank you. Any questions for Carrie?
I have a question.
Amanda, go ahead.
So I did notice at least one person by the last name of Akina on the delinquent tax list. Is that you?
No.
No? Is that a family member?
I don't know if that's relevant.
I'm just wondering.
It is, yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And I think she's doing well in her payments.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? Okay, we will go on to letter E under Article 8, which is the position of Cemetery Commissioner, 3-year term, currently held by Jerry St. Severe, who is the only person on the ballot. Jerry, are you with us? Good for him. Okay, letter F under Article 8 is Cemetery Commissioner for a 2-year term. There is currently nobody on the ballot for this, so write in whoever you want, I suppose.
Got 2 years to fill everything.
Yeah. Letter G, First Constable, 1-year term, currently held by Pedro Grondin. Nobody on the ballot for this. But I believe Pedro would be willing to do it again.
Talked to him just before we went in at Mojave. He said something happened, he didn't get on the ballot, but he was running, and my question was if he was the first constable, right?
Yes, this is
Who was the second?
Jesse Testu is currently the second. He's also up.
Okay, he's up too.
He's up too. So everybody write in Pedro for first constable. Letter H, second constable, currently held by Jesse Testu, 1-year term. No one on the ballot for this position. Jesse, are you here out there?
I don't think
He's not interested.
I'll double check for that.
Okay, well, just write Phil in then. Okay, moving on then. Letter I, trustee of cemetery funds. This is a 1-year term currently held by David Barlow, who is the only person on the ballot. David, you want to say anything about cemetery funds?
It's kind of a boring job.
Yeah.
People are dying not to take it over.
Thank you, David.
He's
That's
done.
it.
You're like,
Okay, next we have 4 spots open on our planning commission. 2 2-year terms and 2 1-year terms. We've got nobody on the ballot for this. This is an important town position right here, so you know, anybody that wants to talk about the planning commission, you can do it now. Mo, you got,
I see both Amanda and Zach are online, Matt.
okay,
They were currently on the boards.
okay. Are they interested in running for their positions again?
Hi, this is Amanda. Yes, I would certainly be interested in running again. We missed the deadline to get paperwork submitted apparently, but we would be very grateful if we could be written in. Both Zachary and I are definitely both interested.
Okay, so there's 2. That's good. Thank you.
Now,
Amanda.
is there a particular term that they're interested in, just to make sure that everybody gets their name written down for the right term? Whether it's the 2-year or the finishing of the remainder of the 1?
That's a good question. Thank you for asking. I think 2-year would be ideal.
Okay. For both of you?
I don't want to speak for Zachary as far as that's concerned.
Speak for him, he won't.
I would say yes, but I'll let him chime in.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay, so there's 2 people that we can write in for planning commission that are willing to do it. We also have 2 other spots, so we'd like to get a full 5-person planning, right, is it 5 people? A full 5-person planning commission. It's, you know, it's an important part of the town officials. Kate, go ahead.
Hi, Kate Touch. I just have a question as to, is Daniel Rondo resigned from this position?
He's not running.
He's not running again, so when does his term expire?
This is one of
This is
his.
it.
Yeah.
And so no one is still on the planning commission.
Israel
other than-
Sandville.
Israel Sandville's the only one that he's not up for reelection and he's currently still
Okay.
on the.
Thank you.
There's 4 positions, but only 2 quick questions.
I know. See, like, you right, I think you right. We'd write Zach and Amanda here for the 2-year.
So,
one, and
yeah.
then you write the 2 1-year people.
A ballot question with this is there's 4 positions, but there's only 2 spots on the ballot.
Correct, because there's only 2 positions open for a 2-year term, and then there's 2 positions open for the remainder, 1-year term, which is the remainder of a 2-year term.
So you just write the 2 names in here and then fill
Yeah.
in the, well, then fill in, write 2 more
Well,
names.
that's why it's very important for people, if they were not able to get their names on the ballot, they do want to run, that they at least let people know which term they are running for, to make sure that everybody places them within that section, so they are able to obtain enough votes.
I guess where I want to make sure that's clear, because to me, looking at the ballot, I only see a 1 2-year term and a 1 1-year term. The
It
way I-
should say vote not more than 2,
It
right in the box.
Yep, yep.
So then that distinguishes, you're supposed to vote for 2, and then if you look like at town clerk or one of the other positions, that's just 1, and it says vote for not more than 1.
Okay, yes, Mo,
Do I say my name again now?
yes.
Yes.
You have to say it every time.
I'm beginning to
Skip
skip
him.
Fred Webster here. I'm the oldest in the room. My question is, and I think you said it's a very important position, planning commission. And we went from the 5-year to the 8-year plan with my crew. And then we got done. My question is, how come there's so many openings on that planning commission? These were people that were,
I wish I had.
is there a reason? Now, you guys, you had them at or meetings and stuff,
Well, last year, what ended up happening, one of the positions did not get filled because of the
Lack of votes.
the lack of votes. So
A
then,
couple didn't.
then we had to appoint. So we appointed, I can't remember.
Two
I think it was
Two.
Amanda or Zach, or
They were later, yeah.
we had to appoint that position, and then we had
Two
two people resign.
Yep.
So then we appointed that and then another one, right?
No, I think that was it.
Was that it?
I think you had two people.
There was a lot that happened this
Yeah.
year.
Is there a reason for it?
Oh, actually, I was.
One moved out of town.
Oh,
Michelle moved out of town.
okay, yeah.
Well, I was
So that
gonna do a
was-
sales pitch for people to write in because we have a sidewalk scoping study that's running through the village over to the school. So it's gonna be an exciting year to be on the planning commission.
But
It's always exciting to be on.
to answer your question, I don't have an answer on why that has happened.
We need you back, Mo.
Well, no, yeah, no. I've got older since I was on, so I can't.
Doesn't mean that they-
Moved out of home, I got dishes to do, groceries. My question is, it is a critical time, and I think I know the answers, because I know at least 2 or 3 people that were on it that got done, and they were running into the same thing that we ran into with 1 or 2 people of the select board. And I don't see that with the crew that we have now, and I'm talking about now, not the one Smith. And I just want to know if it's related to that, because that's detrimental to the town. The planning commission is a mandate now, right? Still.
Mhm.
Okay. Is there a problem between overlap of town planning? I think you guys, as a select board, should be using them as a stepping stone to get to what you need to do and to address on your agenda. And that's no different than my thoughts were back, Scott, when you first came on. You came in at the end of when we were getting done. And ironically, 3 of the projects that we had planned on, that we were told were not going to get voted on by the select board because it was intruding. Do you remember, Phil? And I'm not creating a thing or trying to presume that that's what's happening. I just wanted to, because the planning commission, these people, they got they should have the town at heart, just the same as you guys. And if there's a reason why they're not staying on or getting on, I think it's up to you as a select board to say why. Because they're, I think, detrimental to how you operate and how efficient the town really carries on or addresses the problems that are coming up. Like the church, and I see the church is now under kind of their auspices and all that, and you guys make the final decisions on it, have to get recommendations or whatever. That's what I'm reading in the releases and stuff. And that's the way it should be. But you can't do it with 1 member on it. Right? So you got some people that are coming on. And what I'm getting to is that I think the first thing that should do when they get on at the end of the town meeting and the voting, you guys get together and say, this is how we gotta work together. This is what we want from you, other than what they mandated to do, right? Because I found it really complicated to see what the ballot said and then what the book says, right? There was a whole list of people that were on it, then all of a sudden it was just Israel again, right? So the importance of it is something that should be studied or reconciled somehow. And I think it would make probably better for people wanting to get on, because then they can feel that they are contributing. And I think it should be stepping stone too. So, that's the last thing first.
Thanks, Mo. Okay, Article 9. Oh, who is it? Kathleen?
Skip.
Kathleen.
Oh, Kathleen.
Go.
So in that same vein, so I have a question for Amanda and Zach. Do you have any plans to move in the next 2 years?
I can speak to that. No, we do not. So I was born and raised in Coventry. I have lived in other parts of the country, but this will always be my home. Zachary and I, we have children in the school system here. They will be there long until they graduate, which if it helps, we have one that's in preschool. So we have a lot of plans to stay in this town. It's near and dear to my heart personally. Yeah, I want to see the town thrive and be able to be a part of this community in a really significant way. So I hope that helps.
Okay, no, thank you. I mean, that is part of our attrition in this planning commission is then people just move, and obviously you can move where you need to, but we hate to lose people. But anyway, thank you for letting us know.
Yeah, of course.
Carrie?
Just information, I think it was you commented on Israel Sandville running for planning commission. He's running for the second constable as well.
Oh, good, great. So first constable Pedro, second constable Israel Sandville.
That's not
Okay,
fair, that's the same role they're on.
what's that?
That isn't fair, they're on the same
Oh,
role.
that's all right. Okay,
Skip had something.
Skip, go ahead.
Along with what Mo was leading up to, I think that the planning commission got a real raw deal when I was on it as well with Mo. When they changed the time factor of each candidate. We used to have 3-year terms. Plus, we wanted to increase the information that we were providing to the select board. And they slammed us right in the face saying, any legal affairs, we would have to use our own lawyer. We couldn't use the town lawyer. So there's a lot of work that has to be done between the select boards and the planning commissions.
Thank you, Skip. Anything else before we abandon Article 8 here? Okay, Article 9, shall the legal voters of the town of Coventry vote to appropriate the sum of $836,294 for support of fiscal year 2023 town liabilities and general fund expenses, of which all shall be raised by non-tax revenues received through the landfill host agreement. Anybody got a question or a comment on Article 9? Skip.
Yes. Not really knowing how the town operates, but along with what he was saying, putting some money into a reserve. Now, is that what this general fund is? Or is that something that can be spent at any time? I'm in favor of seeing it put aside so that, 10 years from now, we might be able to still have this down in a low tax rate on their homes.
So that article is strictly the town budget for operating expenses for the year. That's not extras.
The town currently has an.
Who accept?
But David Barber.
There is a $250,000 of that budget is going into the town's long-term investment fund. So
Now, we just
look
had-
at the total number, only about 600,000 is there to run the town from a general fund perspective. There's $250,000 that goes to the town's long-term investment fund.
Got that?
Answer your question, Skip?
I understand, but my question with this is, why does it have to? Can it be directed in another direction and invested?
I guess I'm confused.
It is being invested.
It is being invested. We actually generate, or the landfill generates approximately 1.5 million in net revenue to the town on an annual basis. We only end up spending about, I'll call it $1 million, just to make it the math a little bit easier for, at least for me.
Yeah.
So we put away something like 500 grand a year, in addition to the 250 we have in the budget. So it ends up being, I'll say 750. Budgets, our budgets are a little flexible, so if we run under, it's great, we put a little more. So, but we're putting quite a bit away, and we have about, as of the last treasurer's report, something like $14 million in the long-term savings, so.
My question with this is, why does it need to go into a general fund and not be an actual investment? I understand what you're saying about, yes, it is invested, but say it.
Skip, which part are you talking about going into the general fund and not investments?
The 836,000.
That's our operating cost, 600 and.
Operating costs for what?
The town,
Town.
for salaries, for the road,
So
for,
the town's operating cost is a general fund.
yes.
Correct.
Okay.
And then that's all the separate line items in the budget that's encompassed in there. So if you go through the budget, all your line items add up to that $836,000.
Which includes the 250.
Which includes the 250,000 budgeted to go into the investment funds every year.
Now, I think Skip's question would be relevant for, the excesses from this year. For the-
Oh, yeah, and that's in other articles below this.
Right.
That's part of the 500,000 that Ned was speaking to as the hypothetical number of the extra is in the articles below this. Does that make sense?
Well, that's the way it works, yeah.
Yeah, and every town is operating in a general fund expense with budget line items. You're the David's the financial guy too. Am I explaining that right?
Yeah, it's just the general fund is there to pay for what we call the general expenses of the town, except for the highway fund. So highway expenses are separate, but
Right.
everything else is in the
yeah.
general fund.
I spoke that wrong then.
So you'll see a highway fund.
Article for that.
That's the very next article.
Yeah.
Over.
You have a hand up from Kathleen?
Kathleen, go ahead.
It could be an old.
I think
So, no, I got it.
Okay.
Sorry, it takes me a minute to find the unmute. So just like the school budget, we have to show a percentage between budget last year and budget this year. So if the town's budget for this year is 836,000, is that relatively level? Is that like, because the school budget, even though it looks big, it sounds big, we have a 16% increase. Really, it's level funded. It's just how it's accounted for. In the town's case, do you have a sense of how do we compare to last year? Is there a percentage increase or decrease, or is this pretty much level funded? It takes us 586,000 to run the town each year.
In terms of the general budget, it's about 10% increase from last year.
What?
Yeah. 6% of that was.
It was salaries
Yeah.
to keep up with the cost of living.
Then there was for the sheriff's department, right?
That went up a little bit. I was trying to look
Yeah,
at
that one we went up 33%.
Yeah.
I think it was small percentages all over the place and it just added up to that overall. Like we upped community center utilities $5,000.
Kathleen, did that answer your questions sufficiently?
I'm sorry, I just can't hear you.
So there's workers' comp.
Did that answer your question sufficiently?
I'm sorry, I couldn't
Hear any of that?
not hear. I could tell someone was speaking, but I couldn't hear distinctly the numbers.
It's a
Did it
10%
go-
increase from last year.
Okay, 10% increase from last year.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Okay, anything else on Article 9?
Hang on, Mr. Barlow, I noticed you were unmuted. Would you like to?
No, I'm done, thanks.
Okay, all right.
Okay, Article 10. Shall the legal voters of the town of Coventry vote to appropriate the sum of $274,000 plus Vermont state aid funding for support of the fiscal year 2023 Town Highway Fund? Expenses for summer and winter road maintenance, of which all shall be raised by non-tax revenues received through the landfill host agreement. Would anybody like a explanation of that?
Just an explanation. What's plus the Vermont State Aid Fund and how much is that?
It's about $83,000.
83,000,
Correct,
and that will be added to the 274,
correct.
okay?
Okay, good. Article 11.
Actually, if you look at page, I think it's gonna take me a second to get that. Page 35, 33, bottom of 33, 34, and 35, that's the highway budget. And you can see about halfway down page 33, where it says transportation, 82,000. That's the state aid.
Thank you.
Okay. Article 11, shall the legal voters of the town of Coventry vote to split the roads, infrastructure and equipment reserve fund into two reserve funds to be called the Roads Infrastructure Reserve Fund and the Roads Capital Equipment Reserve Fund to enable better allocation and management of funding by placing $100,000 of the existing fund balance into the Roads Capital Equipment Reserve Fund and the balance of the existing fund, approximately $272,000 into the Roads Infrastructure Reserve Fund in accordance with 24 VSA 2804.
All right, got a question.
Mo, go ahead.
Come to here. Why don't you try to see what's closer to the front?
Sorry. Could you do that in English?
We have, okay. Here's the English.
In our
translation.
language, one will go to
We have-
Maria, one will go to.
We have one fund that's now the roads infrastructure fund. We're gonna split it in two because we don't want to mix up monies that we spent for trucks and graders and things like that with money that we spend for infrastructure, culverts, paving, things like that. So we're splitting it in two. And one's gonna be still called the infrastructure fund, and one's gonna be called the equipment fund. Equipment fund will pay trucks and tires and equipment. The other one will pay for paving and roads and culverts and things like that, and a few handful of bridges too.
So we don't have any dedicated funds other than the road infrastructure and equipment reserve fund, but you want to split it in two and put 100,000?
It's already there. The money's already
Money's
there. The money's carried over.
So you just want to move it from one account to another?
Correct.
And is it dedicated funds in the one that you're adding to?
So one's dedicated for equipment, road
Down
equipment,
the
the other, yeah,
And it's added to a fund, do we have a figure for what the fund already holds?
Zero.
that's it.
The new fund holds zero. It's-
Okay,
we're-
so road and infrastructure currently has 372.
Right.
So road and the current fund that's both in one currently holds $372, 372,000, however that goes. Just add a few zeros or comma.
Yeah.
Splitting it to the infrastructure will get the 272.
Yeah.
272.
And the equipment will get 100. So you take 100 out of that 372, put it into the equipment fund, and then the 272 stays in, or goes into the infrastructure.
So that's the term for better allocation.
Yep.
Yes.
It keeps a better figure on what you spend for what you're getting.
Yep.
Well, that way if we spend all the money fixing the roads and then we
We
all
need
of
a
a sudden need a
truck.
truck, we don't have any more money and we need a truck. So now we're setting aside.
So it's
But I
restricted.
know we've done that before.
Yeah, it used to
be
be
that
the
way.
greater
It
fund.
used to be the greater fund and then we dissolved the greater fund and put it all into one. And now we're deciding.
Because every once in a while, that fund goes up by my house and I like to see it.
So it was decided to change it back because the grader, it was specifically for the grader, but now we have more equipment
Yeah.
that
Well,
just,
we got a lot of roads to understand. Okay, I just want, I just, there was no figures there and you're gonna put 100,000 in with it. And I was kind of curious as to, I mean, before I go in the store, I know what's in my wallet.
Oh, yeah.
David.
I'm still old.
Okay, good on 11?
Yep.
Okay, Article 12. Shall excess revenues received in fiscal year 2021 into the highway fund of $70,000 and into the general fund of $762,000, totaling $832,000 be transferred to the Roads Infrastructure Reserve Fund, if said reserve fund described in Article 11 is approved by voters. If not, into the existing Road Infrastructure and Equipment Reserve Fund to fund future road infrastructure projects.
That's just as confusing.
Well, it is, well, I mean, it,
so
Yeah.
if Article 11 passes, that $832,000 will go into the road infrastructure reserve fund that was split off.
That was
into
just
3
created
years.
in Article 11.
If Article 11 doesn't pass, it will still go into the road infrastructure and equipment reserve fund that will still be there that we currently have. So it'll be added to the $372,000 if that's the case. Otherwise, it'll be added to the $272,000.
And this will all go for,
And this is the same amount of money we always put in there, or? where does
That's,
that money come
that
from?
762 or that David Barlow, that's dependent on the year, correct?
It's significantly more than we put in the past, but we've been ramping up over the years as we've been paving roads. So last year it was about 650K that went in there with the kind of a mixed intent of roads and equipment. The year before that, somewhere around 400,000, give or take. I'd have to look up the specific numbers, but it's ramped up a bit as we've paved more roads.
is that, I guess, is that what included in paving our road, David, or building the High Acres Bridge and all that? Is that the fund?
Yes, this is the fund that paves roads and builds bridges and replaces culverts.
And do we have a plan that's gonna eat that extra fund? Is that it?
There's paving planning. I don't know.
Well, we
And then
haven't, there's no
there's
plan
couple
yet
culvert-
because
Yeah,
it hasn't been
culverts,
approved, but
bridges.
once it's approved, there's gonna be a plan to,
So you're gonna have the funds for it?
Yeah,
You're gonna
correct.
pay that, you're paying it ahead, is that what you're saying?
well, you have to prove it before you can spend it.
What if it doesn't get approved?
Well,
Then those
then
don't happen.
it doesn't happen.
So you don't spend the time planning the
Get out of
project if it's
phase.
not. I guess if it.
No, I just, I refer to my old job, it's just every time you read a paragraph and you see these things, I'm saying, there's gotta be a simple way to state it for uneducated people.
I'm
And these-
thinking the same. thing.
These funds are not taxpayer money.
And is this all before we get the national rebuilding?
This doesn't have anything to do with that.
So we could get even a windfall from all that too?
We got 300 and some odd, 330 something like that. It's ARPA, the American Recovery Progress Act.
Payback. And we're gonna pay it back.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always a pay.
Yeah.
Skip?
Okay, in all of this infrastructure fund, does this include any of the repairs to the work that's already been done?
They would come out of there.
Yes, it'll come out of that fund, yes.
Because that Lawson Bridge Road really needs a lot of repair.
Yeah, that would come out of that one.
Okay, so this next Article 13 is the same thing. It's gonna be contingent on the passing of Article 11. So shall excess revenues received in fiscal year 2021 into the general fund of $100,000 be transferred to the Roads Capital Equipment Reserve Fund if the said reserve fund described in Article 11 is approved by the voters. If not, the existing Roads Infrastructure and Equipment Reserve Fund to fund future roads and capital equipment requirements. We got it?
Everything hinders on 11.
Right. If we decide as a town to say yes to 11, then we're gonna split these things up. If not, it's staying in one.
No, it's 11.3 something million, right?
One.
Yep.
Yeah, 1.13, yes, yeah, right, something like that. Okay, so we can go to Article 14 then. Article 14, shall excess revenues received in fiscal year 2021 into the general fund of $35,000 be transferred to the reappraisal reserve fund to fund future reappraisal requirements?
If we don't put it in, they won't reappraise.
I wish that was true.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead, Skip, you got a question on that one?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Is there any plans to bring any listers back into the town?
There's been no talk.
Not at this time.
That's planning commission.
Okay, we good on 14? Article 15, shall excess revenues received in fiscal year 2021 into the general fund of $4,800 be transferred to the Edmund Douglas Price Fund to make up for Microsoft stock dividends paid to the town for the EDP fund from 2003 through 2013, but not entered into the town's financial accounting system?
We didn't make no money on that.
Everybody's good on that one? Okay, good.
Actually, just one quick side note to that.
Go ahead, Ned.
There was some talk around town that we couldn't find the stock certificates. We have found the stock certificates, so we're not gonna have to expend any extra money to have them replaced. We found them, they're buried in a box that they should not have been.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, long yes, along with other things that shouldn't have been there either.
Yeah. Article 16. Shall the legal voters of the town.
Oh, Kathleen.
Go ahead, Kathleen.
You should unmute her. Actually, maybe she wants to be muted.
Dave's doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Article 15 is very important to the school. I just want to make sure that everybody is aware or knows of the Edmund Douglas Price Fund. No questions?
I heard a no back there, so if you wanted to give an overview, go ahead.
Okay. I was going to ask the treasurer if he would explain why Article 15 is on the ballot.
Is my dinner ready?
No.
Okay, so Edmund Douglas Price Fund, just a quick in a nutshell, 1999, a family called the Price family donated 300 shares of Microsoft stock for the purpose of providing library materials to the school. Over the years since then, Microsoft started paying a dividend in 2003. And each year, 4 times a year, they pay a dividend. And from 2003 through 2013, none of that dividend was recorded in the town's accounting system. That's not to say any of it went missing. It probably is in the bank account. We just don't have a record of it, unfortunately. So this is to get the townspeople to say, yes, we agree. We'll top up that EDP fund the way it should be. We'll get it on the town's accounting system. But from 2014 going forward, and that includes the previous 2 treasurers, Ms. Diaz, and now I'm gonna forget his name. Adam. Had both recorded from 2014 going forward. So it was more a matter of figuring out how to do it than anything else, I think. But this is just from the annual audits to put it, from the auditor's guidance to put it right, make sure the fund is there. For the first time in many, many years last year, we did pay out of that fund for school materials to the library. And we've since received approval from the select board to continue to do that for the next year. So it's moving forward. We've contacted the Price family, let them know this is happening, and they were overjoyed. They're in their late 80s now. We're very happy to hear the news. So.
Yeah, it was a great fund.
And it's the Microsoft shares have done extraordinarily well over the years. So it's a robust fund for that purpose of providing school library materials and school library services in general. And that's a nutshell. Thanks, over.
Thanks, David.
Thank you for that explanation. To the moderator or gentleman of the board, am I allowed to ask people to vote yes on this, or is that not allowed?
Do whatever you want, Kathleen.
Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't want to cross any lines. I don't know the rules here.
Now, Catherine.
You already asked the question. You already said.
Okay, yes, so please support Article 15. And I'm wearing my school board hat. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
You're welcome.
All right, Article 16. Shall the legal voters of the town of Coventry authorize the select board to appoint the town treasurer as provided in 17 VSA 2651F, whose elected term will expire in accordance with 17 VSA 2651FC, if this article is approved.
That's what happened before, right? It's the same.
Not with the treasurer.
We had to, I'm sorry.
This is for the treasurer. This is for the position of town treasurer.
It would have happened with the listers.
Yeah, that would have been the same.
So what we're asking the townspeople to allow the select board to appoint the treasurer, because David Barlow does such a great job. And
Yeah, he was only doing it temporary, right?
Well, no, he's been there.
He's been a while.
But it really should be a appointed position. You need the right person in that position and it takes a few years or at least a year to sort through it and get it, figure it out and he's doing a great job and it'd be nice. There's no one else running, but it would be nice to have it be appointed position for the town instead of going backwards.
And you want that, so it's every year?
Every
Yeah,
year.
it would stay.
Right, we wouldn't vote for a treasurer anymore.
Yeah.
You mean from the floor?
Right,
Right.
it would come off, it would come off the ballot and these guys, whoever is the select board would appoint.
I
treasurer
agree,
for the
I
town.
just see one.
It would stay that way.
But we have an annual audit. We pay $8,000 or $9,000 a year to have the books audited by an outside service. And we've completed our second or third successful audit.
I was questioning Scott, the time, the length of the appointment. At 1 year appointments,
Yearly.
Yeah, yearly.
It would follow with the rest of the appointments that we do.
but the inconsistency that I see, I agree with the appointment thing, that should be. The inconsistency thing, I think, as you just said, it takes a while to learn that position and then keep on top of the requirements and all that. I assume that are coming down from the state a lot. And you're changing the select board every 2 years, so, 3 years. So why couldn't?
Once a year. Every year.
Somebody's changed every year.
Somebody's
So what-
changed every year.
What I'm saying, why couldn't you appoint them for 2 years so that you don't have to face that? Which, is that something that can be carried from the floor or giving you that same permission, amended that one?
We can't amend any of these articles.
Maybe once it is an appointed position, then the select board could make
Decide if it's
an adult term
Well,
possibly.
All I see is it being an unnecessary move every year.
Yes.
Because it takes that long just to, you appoint somebody else.
Right.
But if things are going well, like as you can see with like Devin, her position, there's no one else even running.
Well, I think
In a sense, but
It might give that treasurer some job security too.
right.
Yeah.
That wondering, hey, I just keep doing this, but
Right.
if I don't have.
Well, the
an
problem
idea if I'm
also
gonna be
is
here next year.
if the treasurer happens to move out of town,
Well,
you know what I mean?
then you face,
Then you can only have someone if we vote on it, it's only gonna be a person who lives in this town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
appointed, they can live anywhere.
Appointed, it can be anywhere, and you can get a professional this town really needs a professional. in that
Right, we
position.
want someone with
I
experience.
see the
in that,
benefits of it, I don't see somebody wanting to take it for a year. That type of thing.
They're taking it now though for a year. Right?
Well, I see what Mo's saying is
I agree.
you're hiring somebody and if it's only appointed and you don't know if you're gonna have a job after 1 year, then I see where he's coming
You
from.
don't get
And I
the
think that's
best
something we should look into to see
Yeah.
if appointment can be.
Definitely a good point.
I'll speak as the outsider municipal employee. Most of municipal employees in Vermont, 1 year, you get an appointment, better make it happen.
Yeah, but remember, we're a destination state.
They keep saying that, but also, the other thing that makes it good is, if it was an elected position, the select board couldn't get rid of them. It would be very hard. With the, not with the appointed, you can walk in and say, good luck with the rest of your life, good luck, goodbye. And that's it.
It's a good article. Just, I think the time needs to be.
Okay, last one, Article 17, shall the legal voters of the town of Coventry vote to appropriate the below expenditures for the service agencies in the amount of $16,507. I'm not gonna read each one of those. You can look at them. They're the same ones we do pretty much every year. There's reports detailing these agencies in the back of your thing, so you can look at that. Any questions on Article 17?
I have one. We've been doing this for a long time, voting on this, all these expenditures, all these donations as a block. Is it possible to vote on them separately? I mean, if you don't agree with one of these, then you're gonna turn all of them down.
Or vice versa.
We can't separate them now.
I know we
For
can't
this one,
separate 'em
but
now,
for
but-
next year, you mean, if we do a ballot next year, you'd like to see them?
I think it's worth, I mean, we're spending, we're giving a lot of money, and everybody increases it every
They
year.
sure- yeah, they
They
do.
just slide it in.
Because we always say yes.
Well, number one, there's a lot under here. I worked for diversion for a lot of years. We gave them $100 every year. They're not even listed. I don't know why, but I can understand why. It's under Northeast Kingdom. No, anyway, diversion is under, now it's state regulated to the Attorney General. It's grant work, all of that stuff. It's one of the best programs, that's the only good program that's come out of reparative justice. But as you look under it, I still, and I've asked it every year, the Goodrich Memorial Library, we give them $3,000. Absolutely worthy cause, but we have no representation on that board. Do we?
Oh, yes, you do.
Kathleen, you there now?
No, the town is represented on that board by Keith Richards.
Oh, yeah.
Who lives on Maple Ridge.
Keith Richards.
Was he appointed?
Yes.
Yes.
So is that an appointment or an election?
It's an appointment. That's an appointment.
Because that's, they do a lot of good things, but, and as I read, there's a lot of Coventry people that do use it. And there's a lot of kids that visit it. I just think that with 3,000, I don't assume it's a time consuming job, but I do think that we needed representation, and at the time, there was none.
I do remember that. But
A couple, 3 years ago. So, and this Richards, who's he? And
Keith
where's he?
Richards. He's up on Maple Ridge by you guys.
I don't even know Barlow or the county. But no, I just think that for that kind of money and for the kind of exposure they get, that we do need that, and I apologize, it is a point. It has been.
So every request we got this year is on here, right?
Every request.
So anything that's
Well,
missing
that
from
could be
previous.
diversion,
Yeah.
not sending it,
Yeah.
it's minimal, but every town gives to it because there's a representation and
And there were no increases this year.
as I said before,
No.
I got off the board of that because I just couldn't participate honestly with Zoom meetings. And I'm surprised that they're not on there because it is a good program.
Yep. Kathleen has her hand up.
Kathleen?
Yes, I'm not hearing everything from speakers behind the camera that I can't see, but about the Goodrich Library, a few years ago, Coventry did not have anybody on the board, and someone brought up that point, hey, we're supporting it, why not? They asked me to be on it. I could not because I'm busy with the school, but we have a very capable person in Keith Richards. He has been a very active member of that board. Within the past year, they had to hire a new librarian, and that was a very time-consuming search. They did a great job. They found someone. The library was closed for several months during the pandemic, but then they figured out how to open it and make books available. So rest assured that Coventry is being well represented, and our money is going to, as you said, a very good cause. But like a lot of boards, if you have any interest and you too would like to contribute, they're always looking for good, active folks willing to work. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathleen.
I go back, when she was asked to be on it, there was 2 other people and nothing ever happened about it. That's why I was asked, the 2 other people that had volunteered for that position. And then apparently they appointed somebody the year after. So, very good.
Yep.
Deb has her hand up.
Deb?
No, I just wanted to notice that Ruth Marquette is actually online with us. She does have an appropriations that was submitted. And I just wanted to welcome her to attend our meeting and to thank her for attending our meeting, for representing the appropriation request that we do receive then. And if she has any questions or like to give any information in regards to her agency, you are very much welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm actually here that I could represent Northeast Kingdom Human Services and also the Vermont Symphony Orchestra Symphony Kids program. So I think all of our reports are in your town report. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them.
Any questions for Ruth on those two?
Amanda. has-
Amanda, go ahead.
Hi, I would also like to say that I am here representing Umbrella as well, and our report is in there. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those also.
Okay, so we have two people here that can answer questions if anybody has any. Okay, well, thank you both.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Did you have something else, Amanda?
No, sorry, no.
All right, we're gonna do this again on Sunday, 9 o'clock. Saturday, 9 o'clock, not Sunday. Saturday, 9 o'clock, and then again on Monday.
The Monday meeting will be
Monday's at the school,
at the school.
Saturday's
And-
here.
And after our turn here doing the meeting on Monday evening at the school, they will immediately jump into the bond vote discussion, a bigger discussion about the bond vote.
Skip?
Yeah, I got another question on the budget things here, especially on the road. You've got all these code numbers like 150-00-1000. What's all that about?
That's the damn accounts.
That's
What's that?
it's accounting system.
My job security.
Job security. It's the coding in the accounting system for each of those line items. So when, and it's the same with the regular budget too, for the rest of the town. When we purchase something, it has to get coded towards a certain line item in the budget to keep track of how much you've spent in that budget.
It's a GL code.
Yeah.
Ledger.
As I say, how is this election even gonna be feasible? Because I didn't understand a word of it. And this is why we're at the meeting. And 99% of Coventry isn't here to hear it. They're not gonna know what they're voting on.
It's the same with town meeting, honestly.
No, it isn't.
No.
But you have a good turnout anyway.
Turnouts for town meeting.
You have over 100 and some people. which
With
is
seven,
actually
with,
good in
with
Coventry.
732 registered voters.
I know, but I didn't understand a word of it. And I don't know who to write in. When you have a meeting, you get to hear the names that get put out and the faces. As I said, I bet you get half of them blank. If they get sent back.
Hopefully this will be the last year that we have to do it
Oh,
like this.
Deb, how many votes did we get last year? It was several hundred.
Yeah, several hundred that ended up coming in via Australian ballot, and then we still had a little over 100 who came in person. I mean, so far this year, I have only received, I want to say approximately, this was through last Monday, about 18 advocacy ballots. I'm honestly thinking a lot of people are just going to wait and come in on Tuesday and just vote in person. But then again, we have a week span. There could be a lot more of the ballots that could come in within this past week.
You have more than 20 now because 3 came in the other day.
So
The
by
question-
by Australian ballot, we pretty much hear from half of the people in the town vote. When we have a town meeting, which I want to get back to town meeting, it'll be better in person. But when we vote on the floor at town meeting, we only get votes from like 110 or 20 people, if that.
Or 150, yeah, depending on what's on the ballot, not on the ballot, but the positions that are up.
So it was asked last year, vote, were there any blank? And I'm assuming there could have been certain spots that were blank, but not the whole ballot.
This year, though, there's more no names on
Yeah.
positions. And who's gonna know who to put
Yeah.
down?
If you don't have anybody that you want to put down, who's blank?
No, it's not a matter of it's a matter of knowing.
Oh, right, well.
Well, and that's the problem with people not getting their name in the wrong
Other
date.
than
and-
getting a letter from him, nobody's put anything out there. this year.
Jeez.
Remember the name.
Well, you got a few names tonight, you know, you can do
Yes.
your research and hopefully if you like those people, you'll put their name down.
And hopefully we'll be downstairs next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully, it was just when we made the decision, it wasn't because we didn't want to see everybody, it was just because we're having a spike in COVID. There's a lot of older people, I know people have died from it, and I'm not one to wear a mask, but I would hate to see 100 people get in this little crowded area sitting this close together and hear that 4 or 5 people got infected and passed away or got really sick. I would, but I believe it'll be changed by next year.
But Scott, that's a choice thing. They won't show up if they're scared too. You shouldn't have to be concerned with it and have it affect the way you guys do business, right? And I mean, I know you do, and I know you're conscientious. I lost my sister to that. I didn't get to see her. I didn't get to say goodbye. I didn't get to even go anywhere. I lost 2 nieces the same way over. And whether it's COVID or whatever it was, I don't want a politician telling me I can't go see my relatives.
Yeah. So.
And I want to go to my town and I want to see business being done. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to read about it. I want to see it. And other than the fact that, most town meetings, I don't say nothing. This one here is a chance with small numbers, I can chance to do it. When I resigned from Netford Community Action, it was because, and I'm gonna tell you this with all reservation, appointments, directorships came up. It's a tripartite board. Directorships came up. And there was a purge locally. Everybody replaced came out of St. Johnsbury. Now they're running programs up here that they have nothing, nothing about. And to get a Zoom meeting when they lifted the Zoom restrictions. And now we met at Linden State College in a big room. So we didn't have to sit on each other's laps. There was no reason not to do that. And when, and I say this facetiously, when they put the bobbleheads on to agree with all of the things that were coming down, and I stood up and, as you can see, I'm not afraid to say something. It was going nowhere, and I'm not one to keep knocking my head against the wall. I like to see understanding. I like to see the people that I'm talking to. It's hard to do it. And through your Zoom, and I know it's difficult to do, and I know you had to do it. But if you can get the chance to get the people back, it's the people that make a town. It's 3 or 4 people that make the decisions, right? So we can't give up on our rights to vote, right? And we need the information. And I'm sure you've done the best you can, and the way things have happened, I can understand it, but that's just gonna make your jobs harder to do that. And the technicality of it, I don't envy on anybody. So, and we know what we went through here. We don't want to do that.
I'm 100% aware.
Yeah, and now, as I said before, it's too bad that this school proposal is coming up in a time that's uncertain with costs and everything rising and stuff. It's a hard pill to swallow for even people with good jobs and steady jobs. So it's going to make you guys' job even more difficult to get the word out and the right word to the right people.
I would much rather have stood in front of 200 people downstairs and explained it this evening, to be honest with you. But.
Yeah, well, it seems like a waste of time, right?
What, this?
Yeah.
No, I mean, we're gonna do 3 of them and 2 of these, so there's 5 different meetings that we're gonna try to do. I would much rather have homogeneous people.
When we come in, we stood at the door, I figured there'd be 50 people.
I was hoping.
Right?
I was hoping.
But you're right, if you're presenting what the school board is presenting to a room that's gonna immediately vote, and there's only 120 people there, and you can answer everybody's question right then and there, and you can say to them, look, this $4 million addition is only gonna cost the town 20 cents on the dollar. It's 800 or 600,000, whether it be $1 million over 30 years to improve the education of these children to come. You're gonna get your point across easier than just a piece of paper.
I would much rather
Right,
have it that
I
way.
agree.
I don't know if that would have been a voice vote though.
And the way I read it, you're borrowing $3 million or whatever the heck it was. But at the meeting, you were only spending this much, so you're saying, why are they borrowing this much? You explained it, now I see why. But my first reaction was, "Are you crazy?"
Well, the town can't afford to spend $4 million on the school and all the taxpayers pay for it. But 800,000 over 30 years, I think so.
But on the
Personally, that's my
ballot-
opinion, you know, but
The ballot, you're borrowing that, and that's what you're looking at,
Mhm.
without any explanation.
Carrie?
Maybe the, could be one informational meeting on town meeting day, you know, and everybody's got their ballots. They can listen to what people have to say, and the people that don't want to come in will get their absentee ballots. They could zoom in, you know, it could all be done that one day, and everybody that wanted to go, so you might get 300 people or 400 people. They're gonna listen to what they want to listen to, and it was all good information, like she said, it cleared it up for me, because, you know, you see that great big number. So you could do the one informational, if they don't want to come, that's their choice, but people that do want to hear what's going on. And then everybody could vote right then and there, and, you know, and if you don't want to go, then you have your ballot in by 7 p.m.
Yeah, Skip.
I've already filled out my ballot. I'd like another one.
We do that.
Dad, does that
You want me
work?
to do it?
Yeah.
If you haven't submitted it.
No, it's, I still got it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can. Oh, yeah, you can do that.
Then you have to complete an affidavit that you haven't already voted, if you want another
So
ballot.
if you haven't, okay, so answer that again, because I think Skip is serious.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Skip is serious. He has filled it out and he has it at home. He hasn't submitted it. What's he do?
if you do want another ballot, you absolutely can. I do have an affidavit that you would have to come in and sign. You can either do that Thursday, or you can come in on town meeting day, March 1st. We would give you the form. You need to sign it, basically stating that you have not already submitted your ballot to the election officials. And we will graciously go ahead and give you a brand new ballot to complete.
yeah.
Well, I got a problem with that because I work till 3 o'clock.
Well, voting is until 7 o'clock on Tuesday.
Well, yeah.
You can go to that.
Rules are open till 7 p.m. on Tuesday.
Well, I wanted time to figure it out.
Well, open the one that you have now, look at it, and then.
Right.
Mark the
We're
new
gonna
one
have
in
a-
red.
Trash, you gotta have the next school.
You have almost a week to be able to consider all your options for Tuesday.
I'll give you the copy of the sample if you want it.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
See you on Saturday.